Welcome to everybody today. So I'll get a few familiar faces. I thought I got away from all this, but I'm back and thrown back into the ditch. So I look forward to working with you. First of all, I'd like to make an apology for Barry O'Farrell. Barry's overseas at the moment. I spoke to him on the phone this morning. He's disappointed he can't be here, but he's excited about the challenge like I am. So I'm looking forward to working with him in the future. I'd like to thank the Board of West Tigers for this opportunity, and also the members. No club is there without a membership, a strong membership. And I think that it's really important at the start of this to acknowledge just how important they are to this club and what we're doing, and our sponsors, hopefully to give me the support they've given the club in the past. But overall, it's just, it's an interesting start for me here, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. I've always had challenges previously. I've never been at a club yet that wasn't on the bottom of the ladder when I started. So and we've managed to make a couple of grand finals and win a couple of premierships. So hopefully we're going to try and set things up strategically to work towards that goal there. So look, I don't want to go on any more and more. You all know me, for good or bad, and you can actually ask any questions you want. Thanks.
So is it the biggest challenge in your career?
I think South was the biggest challenge. I mean, South were thrown out of the competition, bottom of the ladder, no money, in complete disarray, and without the likes of Nick Pappas, who did a wonderful job as chairman, and we had to change the board of the club there in a big way, which was a massive change. So that took a long while because financially we weren't strong, which is not the same with this club. So I think South was a bigger challenge than this is, because if I look at this club, but you've got a great. For a start, we didn't have the roster. You've got a roster. Whether you're 100% there or not, I don't know, but you've got a roster. You're a quality young coach who's steeped in the history of the club. You've got financial backing from people that is fantastic. So you've got a great recent but important history. No, South was the toughest challenge.
You said you thought you're done with this and you've thrown yourself into the ditch, Shane, so what's that?
If you look at my career, I went to Cronulla on the bottom of the ladder in liquidation. I went to Penrith on the bottom of the ladder, Hull on the bottom of the ladder, South on the bottom of the ladder. So I'm one up for challenges. I think Roger Cowan summed it up when I left them after winning the premiership, when he said that Richo loves a challenge. And mate, the bottom line is that I've been in rugby league since I was 7-year-old from Cunnamulla. I've been lucky enough to use my business background to parlay to be in rugby league for the last 30-something years as a CEO. Haven't been sacked yet, which is a big thing. I think there's been 85 since I took over, so there's a few on the rails. But at the end of the day, it's about, I love the game, I love what I'm doing. This opportunity was one that, if you're going to do the job, whether it was at South or at Penrith, you had to have true corporate governance. You had to have control to be able to do the things that were required to build the club. I would never have taken this role on if I didn't believe that the governance was in place.
Richo, do you want this role long term?
I agreed. We sat down and talked about long term, but I said, look, you're putting an interim board in for 6 months, and I've got to work closely with Barry and on that board. I want to have a look closer. I don't want to come in with any preconceived ideas. That I'd never met any of the previous regime, so I want to come in and have a look at it, see how it's structured and how it needs to be set up. And then, that's something I'll assess at the end. But no, 6 months is a nice start for it, and we can all sort of work towards that. They mightn't like me, by the way, so at least they don't have to sack me then, do they?
Richo, you spoke about the financial support this club's got before. One of those guys is Lee Hadjipantelis.
Yep.
Really strong back with his football club.
Yep.
He's been highly critical of the club in the past.
Yep.
24 hours.
Yep.
How is that relationship? Do you have to mend it? And can you stay as major sponsor given what he said?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm not about worrying about what's happened in the past. If we do that, we're going to waste a lot of time. And I think wherever I've been, I'm showing you don't linger in the past, you look to the future. And everything I want to do is in the future. As far as Bryden's lawyers go, they've been a magnificent sponsor of the club. They're a sponsor again for next year. They're up behind me. And the reality is we'd like them to stay on long term. That's always a decision for their board to make regarding going forward. But I've only spoken to Lee on the phone once. I don't know Lee at all, but I'm sure I'll be trying to make some contact with him over the next few months.
What do you make of it? What he has said in the past?
But I got no comment on that. I mean, it was a traumatic day for everybody yesterday, and I've been through that before. I've been through trauma. There's plenty of trauma at South, so I've lived through that. But what I've learned is you can't dwell on the past. You can't react to statements or what people say. What you've got to do is do the job. The West Tigers fans are out there, members more importantly, are out there thinking, we just want to win games. We want to win games. So that's the target we've got to do. And you don't win games by looking back, because you've got not a lot to work on looking back at the moment.
Appreciate there's obviously big money offers on the table for Luai at the moment, Adam Millblake. How much of a priority is that for you to reassure those guys that there's still a good club to come to here?
Well, first of all, I'm not aware of the negotiations. I'll meet with Benji over the next day or so and discuss what the situation is there. Obviously, I'll have to step in to be part of that negotiation with what Benji wants. I've made my feelings on Luai well known for a long time. In my opinion, he was the best young half coming through. He's proven at the highest level as the best young half coming through. Not only that, he's a great team leader. That Penrith side revolves around Luai. He is a great person off the field, despite what many media people like to try and make out. You couldn't meet a better person than him. You couldn't ask for a better person in the club. Fanua Blake is obviously one of the top 3 front rowers in the game. So all those things are added up, but at the end of the day, I'm not across it yet. All I want to do is assist Benji to put together the best roster possible, and obviously I'll be reviewing that with Benji.
I was going to ask Barry this.
Yep.
You probably would appreciate, but I'll ask you. The taxpayers and ratepayers have put a lot of money into this fantastic facility here. Would you think that they would expect a lot better than what this club has delivered in terms of management, on the field, the whole package?
Well, I've dealt with taxpayers, and we did the Redfern Oval through the council with Clover, who really didn't have any interest in rugby league. We managed to put that together and create a great park and ground around it. We put together the High Performance Centre at Maroubra, which is involved with the council, basketball, similar facilities here where it's community based. Now you can sit there and smile about it, mate, but at the end of the day, the reality is we are here to actually do a job to repay the faith that they've put in us, and that's what I intend to do.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, we intend.
It's not been repaid.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't want to comment in the past, as I've said, but what I'm saying to you, it'll be a priority of this club to ensure that we repay the favours repay the trust that's been given us by the government.
Hey, Richard, just touching on
Does that answer your question, mate? Thanks.
Just touching on the recruitment side of things. If I'm a player, club hasn't played finals in 12 years, I think it is, the last 2 wooden spoons. With the greatest respect, why would a player want to come here, and how can you make that a compelling case?
Why did a player want to come to Penrith when I won the wooden spoon and all the senior players had wooden spoons put in their letterboxes? Why would they want to come to a club where we had to get changed at the ground outside the ground because of the abuse that they copped as we went to the ground? Why would at South, when lost every weekend and abuse and everything else that came up, why would they come to a club? Both those clubs won premiership because at the end of the day, they want to be part of a building of a club to greatness again, and you cannot put boundaries on that. It may take 2 years with Penrith, it may take 10 years with South, but the reality is every day of our lives we've got to be working towards achieving that.
And just on the recruitment front, who gets the final say? Is it you, Benji? Is it Scott Fulton? Can you?
I will never bring a club to this club. I will never bring a player to this club that Benji Marshall doesn't want.
Is it your first item of business to try and, we mentioned earlier, the potentially precarious sponsorship arrangement? Is that one of your first items of business to try and make sure you've got this?
I think that this club's, in my opinion, has got an enormous possibilities for membership and sponsorship. I think that sponsors who are sitting out there looking at this club and the decisions they've made, which have been very, very tough decisions, but for the betterment of the club, the decisions they've made with myself, hopefully, says to any people out there in the sponsorship world, this is a club you want to be involved with.
So that therefore means the decision yesterday...
Now, are you answering my question now, are you? Are you answering my question?
I'm asking
No, you're not asking me a question, you're answering my question.
Did yesterday's process need to happen to shore up that level of trust from sponsorship?
I don't want to comment on that because what I'm doing then is commenting on the past. All I can say is this: that I believe that going forward we're in a better position to be able to bring those sponsors in.
Richard, you asked about recruitment before. There's been a lot made of the relationship between Benji and Scott Fulton. Does that need repairing? Do you need to sit down with those blokes and sort it out?
I've never met Scott Fulton, never even spoken to him. I had a bit to his dad over the time. So I don't know that it's ridiculous for me to even comment on that until I get inside the tent and speak to Benji and Scott and everybody else. It's unfair to single out Scott Fulton or anybody else in this arrangement. It's about building a club that's internally strong and works together, and that's my task over the next 6 months. So I don't really want to make any comments about individuals.
In terms of Benji, he's only just started off his centre role. What sort of assurances or support we need to give him, and how close, you obviously work closely with him, and how close we have to work with him, and how well do you know him, Richard?
I don't know Benji hardly at all. Obviously brought him to South on the Waynes regime, but I wasn't there long enough after that to comment. But everybody who I respect, in Wayne Bennett, the club at South who dealt with him, Blake Solly and Mark Ellison, everybody says he's a great human being. He's enthusiastic. He wants to win. He wants to be a successful coach. My job's to put everything around him to allow him to be successful, because he's the head coach. He's the guy that's got to front up every Sunday. My role is to support him in any way I can, and I think I've got a track record of supporting coaches as in their roles and choosing the right sort of coaches going forward. So Benji's got nothing but my support.
How much of a priority is it to get a guy like Jerome Luai to a club? Because I wonder, do you feel you need to bring in some big guns to end a 12-year finals drought?
I mean, you always want to bring in big guns, but you know, at the end of the day, you've got to. The first thing you've got to do is secure your own juniors. The first thing you've got to do is make sure they have a clear pathway forward that's not going to be restricted. If you look at my history with the premierships and grand finals, we had 8 juniors in the Cronulla grand final side in the Super League. We had 8 in the Penrith side in the grand final, and most of them were on like $3,000 or $4,000 a year. Went on to play for Australia that year. We had 7 or 8 in South. We only had 3,000 juniors. So I've got a history of bringing young kids through. You give them the opportunity. On top of that, though, you've got to have people in between that do the job every day, the hard work, battle away, do the job every day, and then you have the cream. And you've got to work out what the cream you've got. We've got some cream players now, but you know, you've got to have the cream. But at the end of the day, if you don't build a base, you can't have the cream, and the cream aren't going to come to you unless you've got the base. So it's a process. It's not easy, and it's great headlines, chasing this player and chasing that player, but at the end of the day, it's what you do. It's not what you talk about. Sorry? Yep. Do you think they were more desperate than South? Do you think they were more desperate than South? Or Hull fans? Do you think they were more desperate than Cronulla fans? See, I don't buy into that, how desperate they are. They want a team that they can have faith in, that's going to perform every week. That's what they want. What that looks like is that they can walk away saying, we tried our backsides off this week for our members and fans. Forget the fans, we need members, people to buy into it as well. So I think that's the crucial part about it. I'm not. All I'm saying is you can't go out there worrying about that. What you've got to do is build from internally, put it on the field, and the fans will follow you along, as long as you communicate to them what you're doing and why you're doing it. To them first, not to you.
Do you think, Richo, they're sick of also of the chopping and changing of coaches and players coming and going?
You don't win premierships without stability. I mean, it doesn't happen without stability, and you may have to change things along the way, but the reality is you've got to have stability in a club to win a premiership. Stability in coaching staff, stability in the players, and stability in your board.
Have you met with the players yet?
Nope. No. And I don't intend to meet with the players till post-Christmas.
Shane, realistically, how far off the powerhouse clubs do you think the West Tigers are right now?
See, I learned a long time ago that this is not a rebuild. I gotta hate that word. I hate that word, rebuild. This is a build again. We're in this place where who knows how good our young players can be. Who knows what they can achieve, and I'm certainly, Benji is not putting anything on. But for me to sit here as some overweight CEO and tell we're going to do this and we're going to do, I don't have to make the tackles. I don't have to run the ball up. I don't have to do any of that. That's a job for Benji and the players to do. So they'll decide on how far we can go. We as a club, though, just can't put any restriction on them going forward. Who would have believed after we won we're wooden spooners in 2002, 2001 at Penrith, who would have believed we're 13th in 2002, that we win the premiership in 2003? You can never put restrictions on what you're going to do.
Is there a temptation to pick up the phone to Shenzi? I think the original plan was that Shenzi to move into a coaching director's role just to help Benji in that first year. You open to picking up the phone to the great man?
He is a great man, but no.
Is the general manager of football a priority for you at all? That gets back to sitting down and reviewing structure. I'm a big person about structure,
position descriptions, getting people to do the jobs and who they're answerable to. That way, and when you leave, then that structure's in place. I'd like to think I left South, you know, with the great Blake Solly and Shannon Donato on the commercial side, and Mark Ellison and Jason Demetrio. That's what you do when you leave a club. You leave a legacy for what they can do. And those people are wonderful people. And we want to try and create the same sort of legacy at the Tigers. It's not difficult. All the people here are working their backsides up. Sometimes you're swimming against the tide and you just don't know whether you're going to get over the top, you know, or you're just going to become salmon meat that night instead of salmon over the top. I just think that people have got to put a bit of faith in your staff, your players and everything else and see how it works. But we've got to not put any restrictions around what we can achieve.
Why are you the right man, Richard?
I've done it before. I've done it before. You know, people say to me, oh, this is tough, that's tough. Well, you know, I don't think there's too many challenges in my life that I haven't dealt with. It's, you know, so it's not tough, it's how you handle it and how you deal with it and your knowledge of the way to manage things. And, you know, as you know, Richo can have the occasional blow up, but at the end of the day, it's you know, I think that I've got a track record for staff, players and coaching of bringing them through, and this is no different. And in fact, in a lot of ways, what's happened previously to me is set up a good situation.
Was there any point where you thought, this is a lost cause, I can't, you know, this footy club's beyond help? Because a lot of people think it probably is the way it's conducted itself the last decade.
There's no such thing as a lost cause in rugby league. Was South a lost cause? Was Cronulla a lost cause? Was Penrith a lost cause? Was Hull a lost cause? Was the bottom of the ladder got relegated? Look, it's nothing to do with any of that. It's nothing to do with me setting, oh, we're going to win the premiership. It's a matter of us saying, if you do these little things right, the little things right and work hard on them, then all the else puts into place. And as you're putting these little things in place, there'll be little dramas and blow-ups and whatever you want to tell them, but you can't let it blow you off the track. You can't let the media blow you off the track. You can't let the politics blow you off the track. You can't let a loss on the weekend blow you off the track. You've got to keep to the plan that you decide as a team to do. And that team is the administration and the football and coaching staff. If you stick to that thing and stick together, you come out the other end.
Can you play finals footy next year, Richard?
Sorry,
how would you assess the state of the marriage, though, right now?
What marriage?
The marriage between the two clubs, particularly when it comes to fans. How would you assess that? No, it's been...
Well, mate, well, with all due respect, mate, I haven't spoken to any of the fans or spoken to anybody else, so that marriage is something that I'm not concerned about because I'm involved in a new marriage and I'm trying to make that one work as well as it can, so I'm not really worried about how the marriage is at the moment because the thing about it is, people, it's not what you say, mate, or what you talk about, it's what you do. What do you do? What are you doing in the marketplace? What are you doing with the media? What are you doing with trying to make sure the club sticks together and stays together? It gets down to what you do. It's got nothing to do what you talk about.
What are you going to do without David Newfoundland? He's one of the spot fires you've got to put out?
No, look, I haven't met David. I don't know him from bar or soap. I'm not up to date with the situation. I don't want to preempt what's going there, but all I know is this, is that way I work is very, very simple. Firm, fair, and polite. And that's the way I'll treat David Loeffler and his management.
Couple more guys. Richard, how much of a focus Campbelltown going to be for you?
Well, how much of a focus? If you look at where the growth is of this club, it's massive. And you know, and I think that, you know, we've got to not only be doing things in that area, we've got to be seen to be doing things as well, which you might say is what it is. But I don't think we've pushed our own barrow about how much we're doing out there and what staff we've got to do it. But at the end of the day, it's crucial to the growth of this club. I mean, people talk about Penrith, which is a magnificent area, 8,500 juniors, Parramatta 6,000. We've got more. If you take in Camden right through that area out there, we've got a massive amount of junior network that we need to pick up. So it's a major focus of what we do and how we do it. So I've got no qualms. You never want to pull away the past. I've always loved a rashes and a hot dog at Leichhardt, but at the end of the day, the growth of the club is in that area. It's as simple as that.
Richard, can I ask how this role affects your role at Brisbane Tigers?
I'm glad you got a suit on too, mate, because I had to actually dust mine off today to get it out. I haven't worn it for like 2.5 years, so I'm impressed that you got a suit on. So what was the question again?
How does this role affect your role with Brisbane Tigers and extension?
Oh no, mate, I'm see, people got to understand Brisbane Tigers is my old club. I played there, I coached there, I was president there, I went there from Cronulla, and I'm still close with everyone on the board there. So I'm a great supporter of them being in the 18th team, being the 18th team in the comp. But Shane Edwards from East runs that. He's the chairman of the bid. And we obviously, Shane, I go back to the Broncos days when I was the CEO those days, so he'll take care of that for us.
You get to work now, Richo, or do you start the new year?
Pardon?
You get to work
No,
now?
I'm starting on the second, but I'll probably I might have a couple of meetings between now and then, just sort of get things sorted out. But no, I don't start till the 2nd of January.
Can you play finals footy next year, Richard?
That's not up for me to decide. It's up to the players and Benji to decide. As I said, mate, I'm not sure how many head-ups I've got on me. My career was ruined when they brought in tackle count. So,
Can this club play finals footy next year?
but I have no idea because it had nothing to do. I like the roster though. I will say, and I like the coach, so that's a good start. If I didn't like either of them, I wouldn't be here.
When did this job actually come? How did this job come about? Who sounded you out and when?
Oh, mate, that's a private thing, but really, it only came to fruition over from Thursday last week when I actually sat down and thought about it seriously. Up until then, I hadn't really contemplated it. But Thursday last week, I sort of met with a couple of the people involved, and we talked about. And the big thing that sold me, mate, was that the true corporate governance. There's no doubt in my mind that what Parramatta did a few years ago took them out of the limelight, like West Tigers are in now. You don't hear about Parramatta infighting. You don't hear all the rubbish. The chairman's doing a great job, and they have good corporate governance underneath. And I wouldn't have come here if I didn't believe that this was going to happen here, because it's pointless because you can't do the job.
Have you spoken to Justin?
No, I haven't yet, but I've only spoken. I will,
Yeah.
but it's a bit raw for Justin, very raw, and I understand that. He's put a lot of his heart and soul in the club. We're standing under a lot of his work, but I will. But it's always a bit raw when you talk about things that happened yesterday.
Did you miss this part of it, dealing with the
No, I don't miss it at all. But it is what it is, and it goes with the job. And I don't miss those calls at 11 o'clock at night about somebody having an indiscretion in the bar somewhere either. But it is what it is. You know how to handle it. You know what you've got to do for it. One thing I have learnt though, and I've learnt by the hard way, is that you've got to be open and honest with the press, and hopefully that's what you find from me.
Richard, you sound like a bloke that's like super motivated to come here and make an impact, and you're obviously up for a challenge. So I know it's early days, but like to do that, does it need to be, your role need to be longer than 6 months? Because it sounds like you're the right bloke for it.
Mate, that's really up to how we set things up in the next 6 months, the quality of staff we've got, and what we need, and whether the board is because I'm going to have to make some calls along the way that. And and if I'm not going to let myself be restricted by making calls that I think is for the betterment of the club. Obviously, I'll do it in conjunction with Barry. That'll always be. I had a great relationship with Nick Pappas, despite what many of you wrote from time to time. But I had 17 years working with Nick Pappas, so you'll have a few arguments. You have a few arguments with the wife after 17 years, so sure you can have one with the chairman. But we had a great working relationship, true governance. I had a great working now. So we just got to find out how this pans out over the next 6 months, how it works. But what I'll be doing every day is trying to set this club up for success, and most importantly, trying to do everything I can do for Benji to win.